Just a few introductory remarks. Good morning. My name is Branka Angelkovic, and I'm a regional coordinator for Southeast Europe and Turkey. You're all very much welcome to our webinar on co-creating the future workforce, private sector engagement in skills governance and anticipation of future skills needs in Southeast Europe. I would now like to give a word to Cristiana Burzo, the coordinator of the ETF Skills Lab Network of Experts, who will tell us more about the agenda, and then I will take over again to guide you through the first part of this webinar, which I believe is going to be absolutely very engaging and interesting and fabulous. Thank you so much, and warm welcome again.
Thank you so much, Branka. Good morning to everyone, and welcome to this webinar. Just to start, before starting, a couple of technicalities for the Zoom meeting. With a kind reminder to keep your microphone muted during the presentation, and you will be most welcome at any time to put your questions forward to the speakers in the chat box and to take the floor during the question and answer sessions that we have foreseen in the agenda. So on behalf of the European Training Foundation, let me welcome you all. This is our third regional webinar for 2025 that we are organizing within the Skills Lab network. I'm Cristiana. I'm coordinating the activities of this network from the ETF side. And again, a warm thank you to all for joining us today. As you may know, the network was launched in 2021 with the idea to bring together around a common platform researchers and analysts in the field of skills demand who are interested in discussing and exchanging on skills anticipation and how future skills are changing. We now have over 700 members within this network, and very proud of this, coming from ETF partner countries, EU member states, international organizations, and beyond. So the network is really taking shape as a global forum to discuss skills demand and skills anticipation. The typical network activities, as most of you know, are thematic webinars like the one of today, peer visits, live events, and we use a number of channels to keep ourselves engaged. Newsletters, flash news, and a LinkedIn group where we exchange information and opportunities. Going to today's webinar. So this is the third of a series of 4 regional events within the Skills Lab. This time we will focus on Southern and Eastern Europe and Turkey. Regional events have already been organized for the countries of Southern and Eastern Mediterranean and Central Asia in the first half of the year. So we will have today webinar, and the next regional one will focus on Eastern Partnership, and it will be planned between October and November. With these webinars, we intend to bring forward regional experiences, looking at the different angles of skills anticipation from the region's perspective. On today's topic, we are all aware that education and training systems are really under increasing pressure to adapt, to equip learners with the competence needed in economies which are rapidly transforming. And a key part of this adaptation lies in skills anticipation to ensure that training provision and qualifications are aligned with the labor market trends and the future demand. Most ETF partner countries are facing strong demand and increasing demand for medium qualified profiles. And this highlights once more the importance of linking education with demand-side intelligence and anticipation mechanisms so that training systems can be really equipped to prepare learners for the jobs of tomorrow. Let me provide a brief overview on the agenda, so we are not taking too much time on this introduction. The first session, we will focus on private sector engagement in skills governance and anticipation of future skill needs. And we will have a chance to hear experiences from renowned speakers from Turkey. The speaker will be from Istanbul Chamber of Industry, from North Macedonia, from the Employment Service Agency, from Serbia. The speaker will tell us the perspective from the Office for Dual Education and National Qualifications Framework. And last but not least, Albania, from the National Agency for Employment and Skills. The second session today will concentrate on policy dialogue and regional collaboration on skills demand and matching. We will start with a presentation from ETF, from the European Training Foundation, on a case of participatory foresight and private sector collaboration in the agri-food sector in the Western Balkans. And then we will hear from the Regional Cooperation Council and the Western Balkan Six Chamber Investment Forum. So you see, the agenda will be very dense. It's very packed, but I'm confident we will have a lot of room for discussion. Thank you again to all.
To our first speaker, who comes from the Istanbul Chamber of Industry Academy, Mr. Aykan Gurcu. As we all know, ISO is the biggest chamber of commerce in Turkey and performs great work in skills anticipation, development, and matching. Now I will let Aykan introduce the topic and frame the discussion for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Branka, and good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity today, speaking alongside such distinguished names, actually. As Branka mentioned, my name is Aykan Gürcü, and I'm the project manager and represent the Istanbul Chamber of Industry and its training unit, ISO Academy. We prefer to call it shortly ISO. Next slide, please. And ISO is the largest and most established chamber in Turkey with over 23,000 members, and 95% of them are SMEs. And we operate in multidisciplinary way, covering areas from education, training, and workforce development to sustainability, R&D, digitalization, environment, and international relations. But the next slide, please. But the real backbone of our institution is our 55 professional sectoral committees over there. They bring industrialists together every month at least once. And through these councils, we stay connected to every part of the economy and industry. Next slide, please. And yes, as you can see in the screen, our strength comes from our members, but our members' strength also comes from our employees. And I think everybody in here, I think we all agree that the labor markets are undergoing a profound transformation, not only because technologies like artificial intelligence and automation, but also due to demographic and environmental shifts. And the World Economic Forum estimates that by 2027, 43% of tasks will be performed by machines compared to 24 today. At the same time, 44% of workers' core skills are expected to change within the next 5 years. And this shows us the magnitude of the shift we need in the skill composition of our workforce. And next slide, please. Yeah, that is irritating, I know, but we have to. At ISO, and we approach these challenges with 3 complementary strategies, actually. And first, through ISO Academy, where our main mission is reskilling, upskilling the workforce. Adult education is at the core of what we do. And life learning has become a must-have, not nice to have anymore. And every year at ISO Academy, we deliver hundreds of programs, technical and transversal, always designed with the future of work in mind, and all the programs. So to align with labor market demand, we integrate the voice of employers through our committees, need analysis, partnership with HR associations, NGOs, and European Union funded projects. And I will come back shortly with the European Union funded projects later. And secondly, through our foundation, ISO, where we support university students with scholarship, mentoring, and internship. Yes, I know not the main focus today's talk, but it shows you how we prepare future talent before they even enter the labor market. And third, next slide, please. Third, through the ISO vocational education and employment project, and as you can see upper right corner of the screen, we call it shortly ISO MAPE, in partnership with the Ministry of Education and Istanbul Chamber of Commerce. In the project, the idea is simple. In fact, we are prepared young people for the new world of work. We must help them develop a growth mindset, a lifelong learning mindset from an early age, actually. That is why we also focus on anticipation and employer-led collaboration at the vocational school level. And when we look at the numbers at ISO MAPE project, in ISO MAPE, 44 schools, more than 50,000 students, 2,700 teachers, and 150 industrialists are directly engaged. Employers act as mentors in this project, as also sponsors and curriculum advisors. Regular meetings we organize, joint events, and employment fairs, which are quite important for both sides, all help align education with labor market needs. Chambers like us, ISO, must be at the center of this dialogue to keep it sustainable. And next slide, please. And actually, what you see on the screen is just one example out of 44 schools. It shows you the activities carried out in a software focused with high schools and also collaboration capacity. But alongside this strong example, one of the biggest problems in Turkey is employability, actually. Vet graduates often cannot find job in their fields while companies struggle to reach skilled workers. ISO bridge this gap, matching students with firms through internship that often turn permanent jobs. For example, a few years ago, SMEs in Istanbul could not find welders and even hired social science graduates who had never experienced about it. And they tried to train them on job, but it's mostly failed. And our ISO-MAPE councils, ISO-MAPE committees responded by increasing the focus on welding in vocational schools. This shows actually how our committees can address both short-term crises and also long-term needs. And next slide, please. And we also see this situation in curriculum requests. And as I mentioned earlier, we also gather evidence from the European Union funded project. Actually, companies demand training in digitalization, data analysis, CAD/CAM design, additive manufacturing, and lean production. Especially export-oriented sectors export digital literacy and ERP skills, while cybersecurity has become a priority across all industries. These insights also guide our training portfolio at ISO Academy. At the same time, as I mentioned before, we also gather evidence from our European Union funded project. And one strong example is actually Manifold, the Future of Working Manufacturing project, where we held focus groups and surveys with over 200 participants from 20 subsectors. And the output was the Turkey Workforce Roadmap Report. And this report highlighted both opportunities and challenges. Emerging needs like digitalization, automation, and the green transition, but also resistance from employees and the financial constraints of SMEs are as seen as the challenges. So everyone at here, you can think, what did you do with these insights? Yes, you're right. At ISO Academy, we designed short, flexible, and hybrid programs such as mini MBAs to make it easier for employees to participate. And we offered nearly 80% of our training free of charge to reduce cost barriers for SMEs. And we try to avoid these barriers, actually. And next slide and last slide, please. And yes, these are all good examples. These are all good approaches. But of course, even with the right mechanisms, outcomes still depend on human motivation and culture. Many employers still approach training with a short-term mindset, focusing on immediate crisis, and leadership awareness is crucial for skills development, but it's limited at the end of the day. Trainer quality varies and low, and employee motivation is fragile. And all of these shows that even with anticipation and matching systems, workers cannot be treated as a single uniform group. Cultural and economic resistance are always present. And these are the main focus actually at ISO and ISO Academy activities. And this reflects the fundamental shifts we are experiencing. Jobs are changing faster than ever, and HR still struggles to recruit based on skills rather than degrees. Larger companies adapting obviously, but scaling this approach to SMEs, which is the backbone of our economy, which is the backbone of global economy actually, remains the biggest challenge in front of us. That is why employer-led councils and chambers like us are vital, are crucial. They bring field insights into the system and helps us adapt quickly and know what's going on by the helping of them. And lastly, sustaining employer engagement requires a facilitator, and chambers like us play this role. And our three approaches are seen as good practice in Turkey, and we actively share them with other chambers. Today, ISO Academy trainings already reach 10 different cities in Turkey, helping employees, workers, and students all over the country. Through this system, employers are not only shaping curricula and contributing the needs assessment, but also supporting apprenticeship, internship, job fairs, and career events. They provide the link between training and the labor market, while we, as a chamber, coordinate and sustain the dialogue that makes this possible. And
I
to
can.
conclude,
Thank you.
yes, to conclude, I know everyone is familiar with the ETF monitoring report. Also, Christiana mentioned before we start the webinar, but I would like to point out one of them. The 2024 ETF monitoring report clearly showed that manufacturing and service sectors still mostly demand medium skilled workers. Our own experience in Istanbul Chamber of Industry confirms this issue actually. And the foundation of our approach is to strengthen mechanisms and projects that place employers at the centers of skills governance and to scale up the existing systems. We see employers not only as end users or beneficiaries of the system, but also as co-designers, co-investors, and co-governors. Yes, I know this is not always easy. In fact, it sounds easy, but requires effort. But what matters is finding models that are regionally relevant, efficient, and responsive, demand-driven, employer-led, and competitive. And these requires building active dialogue structures. And I believe our experience at ISO shows a practical pathway and that can be shared and scaled across the region, maybe with the neighborhood countries. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention and listening to me. Thank you, Branka, and thank you all of the people.
Thank you, Aykan. Thank you very much for almost keeping the time. We are just 2 minutes behind it, but I thought that it was nice and helpful to hear your presentation as a framing speech for the later discussion. And now our next speaker is Biljana Delovska from the Employment Service Agency of North Macedonia. She will be presenting, the presentation will be in English, but she will be presenting in Macedonian. So please go to the translation button that is in the More section and switch to English so that you can actually follow her very interesting presentation. At the same time, while listening to her, you can also ask questions in the chat, and I already see some coming. So we will have a discussion after all these 4 presentations. Biljana, the floor is yours.
Good morning, dobro утро и од мене. Ви благодарам што ми овозможивте да зборувам на македонски јазик. Само би сакала да напоменам дека заради технички проблеми јас ќе зборувам без камера. Дали е во ред и дали се слушаме?
I think it is fine. It is important that we hear you. Thank you. So Biljana will talk. Yeah.
Јас ќе зборувам на мое големо задоволство што учествувам и сум дел од овој вебинар. Ќе зборувам на тема улога на приватниот сектор во развојот и усогласување на вештините. Во услови на динамични промени на пазарот на труд, вклученоста на приватниот сектор, развојот и усогласување на вештините станува клучен фактор. Работодавачите се оние кои најдобро ги согледуваат актуелните и идните потреби на пазарот и токму преку нивното активно учество можеме да обезбедиме обуки и образовни програми што ќе бидат прилагодени на реалните потреби. Од аспект на Агенцијата за вработување, please, next slide, следниот слайд ве молам. Од аспект на Агенцијата за вработување, оваа прашање е можне значајно, како институција што секојдневно ја следи состојбата на пазарот на труд, односно како институција која нуди услуги и за невработените лица и работодавачите, ја имаме клучната улога да посредуваме помеѓу барателите на работа и работодавачите, а со тоа и централна улога во поврзување на пазарот на труд, образовните институции и приватниот сектор. Нашата улога е да обезбедиме механизам за соработка со работодавачите, да ги слушнеме нивните потреби и во соработка со останатите чинители на пазарот на трудот, да ги преточиме во конкретни програми и мерки кои ќе водат до директно вработување на невработените лица или до подигање на вештините за вработување со посебен акцент на вклученоста на ранливите категории на невработени лица. Соработката и воспоставување на партнерство помеѓу работодавачите, образовните институции, Агенцијата за вработување и центрите за обука води кон градење на систем кој што е флексибилен и спремен да одговори на предизвиците. Следниот слайд ве молам. Современиот пазар на труд се соочува со бројни предизвици кои бараат системски пристапи и координирани решенија помеѓу главните чинители на пазарот. Брзите техничко-технолошки промени, дигитализацијата бараат нови знаења и вештини кои треба да ги пратат овие промени, а голем дел од работната сила ги нема овие вештини за да се прилагоди кон новите услови за работа. Работодавачите често имаат потешкоти во изнаоѓање на квалификувана работна сила за пополнување на слободните работни места, а од друга страна имаме голем број на невработени. Ова укажува дека образовниот систем и обуките не секогаш се во можност да ги спратат овие динамични промени на пазарот на труд, односно образованието не може со истата динамика да ги прати промените и затоа се потребни креирање на краткорочни програми кои што ќе бидат усогласени со реалните потреби на пазарот. Младите и квалификуваните лица често ја напуштаат земјата во потрага по подобри можности за работа, подобри услови за живење и што создава дополнителен недостиг на стручни работници во одделни сектори. Недостатокот на квалификуван кадар заедно со недоволната флексибилност на образовниот систем представува сериозен предизвик. Сето ова ја нагласува потребата од зајакнување на соработката помеѓу главните чинители на пазарот на труд заради обезбедување на брзи, ефикасни и флексибилни решенија. Следниот слайд ве молам. Иако пазарот на труд се соочува со сериозни предизвици, токму овие отвараат и можност за реформи, иновации и нови модели на соработка. Технолошките промени отвараат широк спектар на нови работни места, посебно во IT секторот, во обновливите извори на енергија и енергетската ефикасност, а ова представува можност за модернизација на економиите и отварање на перспективни работни места, посебно за младите. Континуираното следење на трендовите на пазарот на труд овозможуваат навремено препознавање на потребата од нови знаења и вештини, а со тоа може да се креираат краткорочни и стручни програми за обука, што овозможуваат побрзо прилагодување на работната сила кон барањата на работодавачите. Дуалното образование, односно унапредувањето и проширувањето, овозможува на учениците да се стекнат со практични искуства и полесен премин од теорија кон пракса, односно од образование кон вработување. Таргетирањето на брзо растичките сектори отвара можности преку креирање на конкретни специализирани програми за обука да се подготват кадрите кои веднаш може да се вклучат во индустрии кои што генерираат голем број работни места, а кодизајнирањето на наставните програми преку заедничка соработка со образовните институции и бизнис заедницата овозможуваат усогласување и прилагодување кон реалниот пазар. Преку формирање на работни групи, советни партнерства со компании и стопанските комори се овозможува редовна размена на информации и следење на потребите од вештини и креирање соодветни политики, а соработката со земјите од регионот нуди можност за размена на искуства, заеднички иницијативи и усвојување на модели кои се покажале како успешни, воедно регионалната соработка обезбедува усогласеност со европските и меѓународните стандарди. Следниот слайд ве молам. Вклученост на приватниот сектор е од клучно значење за точно предвидување и планирање на идните потреби од работна сила. Кај нас оваа соработка се реализира преку редовни средби со работодавачи, стопански комори и нивните организации. Тие активно учествуваат во идентификување на недостатокот од кадар и побарувани вештини, често преку спроведување на сопствени анкети и истражување, меѓутоа и конкретно во учество на анкетата која што е за потреба од вештини, која што ја спроведува Агенцијата за вработување, за која што имам кратко излагање во следниот слайд. Исто така, представници од приватниот сектор се директно вклучени во креирање на програми за вработување и подготовка за вработување. Тоа значи дека програмите кои се реализираат не се општи или формални, туку се усогласени со реалните потреби на пазарот. Посебен значаен сегмент е учеството на приватниот сектор преку стопанските комори и другите здруженија во кодизајнирањето на наставните програми. Во соработка пак со компаниите, средните стручни училишта го спроведуваат моделот на дуално образование, кој што представува најдобар пример за поврзување на теоријата и практиката. Од неодамна дуалното образование кај нас е уредено и со Законот за средно стручно образование и обука. Во Република Македонија постојат институционализирани форми на социјален диалог, како што се економскиот социјален совет, локалните економски совети. Овие тела представуваат платформа каде што приватниот сектор може директно да влијае и да придонесе во креирање на политики на пазарот на труд. Следниот слайд. Како што и претходно споменав, една од активностите на Агенцијата за вработување е спроведување на анкетно истражување за потребата од вештини на пазарот на труд, кој што го реализира еднаш годишно. И ова се наметна како потреба да можеме да одговориме на брзите и динамични промени на пазарот на труд. Овој начин на предвидување и оваа активност е развиена во рамките на европски проект и Агенцијата за вработување ова истражување го спроведува веќе години наназад и се покажа како добра алатка за краткорочно предвидување на потребите на пазарот на труд. Анкетното истражување базира на примерок од работодавачи од приватен сектор со 7 и повеќе вработени. Офатени се повеќе од 3000 работодавачи и целта е да добиеме краткорочни индикатори, показатели за тоа каква ќе биде потребата од нови вработувања во наредниот краткорочен период, за кои занимања ќе имаме потреба и за кои вештини треба да ги поседуваат потенцијалните кандидати за вработување. Овие податоците се прибираат преку методот на теренска, телефонска и електронска анкета, потоа се обработуваат и презентираат во агрегирана форма, целосно се заштитени и доверливи, и овој систем представува основ пред се за креирање на активни програми и мерки за вработување со посебен фокус на програмите за подготовка за вработување. Во следниот веќе слайд се дадени Da, poslednji slajd, znači veke se, konkretno se navedeni je navedena primenata na naša ta anketa. Prvenstveno anketata treba da ni ovozmeži kreiranje na programe za podgotovka za вработување, кои што ги реализираме и заедно во соработка со работодавачите, со Стопанската комора и со другите здруженија на работодавачи. Понатаму корисници на анкетата за вработување се и самите работодавачи, меѓутоа и во најголем дел образовните институции, Министерството за образование, Центарот за образование на возрастни, Центарот за стручно образование, Министерството за економија и труд, се користат во изготвување исто така на локални планови значи на локални акцијски планови за вработување. Понатаму исто така анкетата е основ и за моделот за предвидување на вештини. Тоа е една веб платформа преку која што младите лица може да се запознаат со потребата од работен кадар на пазарот на труд и каде да го насочат понатаму своето образование. И на крајот, како заклучоци, заклучни согледувања, последниот слайд ве молам. Агенцијата за вработување ќе продолжи да ја игра улогата на активен сервис кој им помага на барателите на работа да најдат соодветна работа и на работодавачите да најдат квалификувана работна сила, а со мрежата на партнерства се позиционира како платформа за диалог и еден од креаторите на политики, придонесувајќи за поефикасен, фер и попредвидлив пазар на труд кој одговара на потребите на економијата. Иако пазарот на труд во Македонија се соочува со структурни, демографски и институционални предизвици, нашата заложба е зајакнување на системот за предвидување на вештини и идни трендови, односно воспоставување на национален систем за предвидување на потреба од вештини, имплементација на ЕСКО класификацијата, формирање на секторски совети за вештини или затврстување на улогата на секторските комисии за квалификации, формирани согласно Законот за национална рамка за квалификации, со вклученост на сите чинители на пазарот на труд во насока на пошироко влијание со целокупното управување со вештини. Ви благодарам на вниманието.
Thank you, Biljana. Thank you, Natasha, for translation. Please pose your questions in the chat. We will have a discussion, as I've said, at the end of this first part of our webinar. And now I would like to give floor to Emilia Markovic from the Government Office for Dual Education and the National Qualifications Framework, Republic of Serbia. So,
Hello.
Emilia, good morning.
Thank you, Branka. Good morning, everyone. My name is Emilia. I work at the sector for NQF within the Office for Dual Education and NQF of Serbia. And my presentation topic today will be institutionalizing private sector participation in skills anticipation and development based on Serbia example. Next slide. So let's start with how NQF is an instrumental mechanism for aligning the education system with labor market needs. This will give us the foundation to understand why employer involvement is so important throughout the education and training system. Next slide, please. So a few words about the context first. Nowadays, in the modern world, a few big forces are changing the way we work. Technology is moving fast with AI, automation, and big data reshaping almost every field. At the same time, globalization and the better connectivity mean we work more across borders with diverse teams and flexible setups like remote and hybrid work. Jobs themselves are also changing. They are less predictable, often project-based, and they come with more complexity. Then there are demographic shifts, an aging workforce, but also a stronger focus on soft skills and balance between work and life. And finally, migration plays a huge role, with both emigration and immigration affecting labor markets and the challenge of recognizing and adapting people's skills and qualifications. So understanding this context helps explain why flexible, responsive qualifications framework is necessary. Next slide, please. Another aspect is the employer's perspective. So social partners often stress a gap between education and the world of work. In short, their comments are that the graduates lack practical skills, systems react too slowly to new technologies, and soft skills are overlooked. Then RPL is underdeveloped, and lifelong learning opportunities remain patchy and uneven. And this is where the National Qualifications Framework comes in as a potential solution. Next slide, please. The National Qualifications Framework of Serbia lays the groundwork for making lifelong learning a reality. Please go back. Okay. Its role is not only to align qualifications with the needs of the economy, society, and personal growth, but also to strengthen social partnership in a sustainable way. So, by introducing clear quality standards and better coordination is how qualifications are developed, implemented, and certified. And the NQFS helps to build trust in the system. So, by applying quality assurance across all parts of the framework, it ensures coherence and consistency in education policy, ultimately creating a more responsive, modern, and inclusive system. So, next, let's take a look at the framework that supports this system, both strategically and institutionally. This slide shows the key strategic and legislative documents that include employer participation in the education system. I will not go into details, but I invite you to take a closer look at the list of these documents which are presented here. Next slide, please. So, regarding institutional framework, over the years, employers' role within the education and qualification system has strengthened, and today they are actively included in many institutions. This involvement helps to ensure that policies, standards, and programs reflect the real needs of the labor market. And as you can see, the employers are represented at multiple levels, from councils and sector skills councils to accreditation bodies and curriculum development institutes. And their input is embedded throughout the system in different ways, as direct members of the councils, of the boards, steering committees, or as consultants, etc. Next slide, please. So this slide is essentially an expanded version of the previous one. So if you want, you can explore it in more depth on your own, but for now, we will not go into it further. And with this institutional context in mind, let's now explore how the NQF supports lifelong learning. Next slide, please.
Emilia, 3 minutes more. Thank you.
Okay. In short, the slide shows that the NQF helps make learning flexible, transparent, high quality, relevant, and connected to both labor market and international standards. So we're not going to tackle each point here separately, but all the listed features in this slide set the stage for active employer participation throughout the quality assurance and program development processes. Next slide, please. So this is a very important slide, and it shows the quality assurance cycle. And as you can see, in Serbia, employers are involved at every stage, from looking at labor market needs all the way to the certification phase. And on the following slides, we will walk through each step in a little bit more detail. Next slide, please. So the first step is the labor market needs analysis. To understand what skills and qualifications are needed, we relied on a wide range of data listed on this slide. And employers do play a crucial role here. They provide direct insights, share information, help interpret the data, and sometimes even contribute sector-specific surveys. So employers' insights here directly influence what skills and competencies are prioritized in training programs. Next slide, please. Within the development of qualification standards, the employers actively participate in 3 steps. First, in the initiative, where they can submit an initiative for a new qualification or update an existing one. Then in the sector skill councils, where they have their representatives, and also in NQFS council, where they also have their representatives. So overall, the employer engagement is not just advisory, it actively shapes qualifications that meet the labor market demands. The next slide, please. So, at the center of this process is the qualification standard, which serves as the foundation for developing curricula, learning plans, studying programs, and training programs for adult education. And the employers participate in the development of these programs in context of dual education, and creation of special curricula and learning plans. Let's move to the next slide. I am really shortening this. So the employers also participate in the accreditation of training programs in secondary vocational school education, dual education, and also they are themselves assessed as certified as accredited providers. Next slide, please. In the implementation of training programs and certification, the employers participate in dual education, higher education, and adult education programs. And also when certification is considered, they help conduct final exams in vocational education, assess vocational matura, and take part in exams for training and RPL programs. And their role in the certification closes the loop, making sure that what learners are taught matches what is actually needed in the workplace. Next slide. Finally, what are the benefits for employers when they actively participate in qualification and education processes? Being considerate of time, I will leave the list for you to check on your own. But can we just move back, please? Even with having a glance at the list, it is clear that active employer participation is not only the education system, but also the companies themselves through better workforce preparation, strategic insights, and strengthened sectoral influence. So before closing the presentation, we can say that we are continuously working on system improvement. There are many activities going on, many planned ones. Here we have listed a few ones already initiated, such as optimization of institutional framework of NQFS, with particular emphasis on optimization of sector skill councils, increase of NQF system flexibility to enable greater employers' participation, digitalization of processes related to the development of qualification standards, etc. So these steps show commitment to further strengthening employer involvement and making the NQF even more responsive to labor market needs. Thank you for your attention and looking forward to your questions and comments in the Q&A session.
Thank you, Emilia. Very interesting and inspiring presentation. So now our next speaker and the last speaker in this round is Etleva Gelai from the National Agency for Employment and Skills from Albania, and she will shed more light on the connection of vocational education and training with the world of work. So now, Etleva, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Branka. Hello, everybody again. It's a pleasure for me to be here in this event and much more to discuss one of the main challenges that we have in our country, such as private sector engagement, not just in skilled governments, but in the future skilled needs. Next slide, please. And I want, throughout my presentation, I would like to share with you an overview of the partnership between government and public institution with the private sector in Albania. The this partnership is defined by law in the national level and local level too. In national level, we have now two national councils, one for VET and one for employment, and which be together representatives from government, employees, and employer to discuss about the drafting and implementation processes of police in both of fields, in employment and skills too. We have in one side the sectoral committees to that consult the NAVETQ, National Agency for Qualification and VET in Albania, in process of expansion of the VET offers. And we have now 2 active sector committees, tourism and ICT, and soon we will be 2 others in construction field and energetic. These sectoral committees in the base of skill need analyze, national skill need analyze, and sector needs skill need analyze, support NAVETQ in process of the drafting the new qualification or review the exist qualification. In other part, we have 3 parties consultative council that support NAES in implementation process of the policies in both fields, employment and skills. And business also is involved in the working group extension by NAVETQ to develop the occupation standard, qualification description, curricula, etc., etc. And in local level, the role of the private sector is very important in VET providers board. And we work hard in the last years to increase this role, because for us, the role of employers is very important, not just in the business area, but and in community as an ambassador of the VET providers. But in each VET providers have direct connection with the business through the business relationships coordinator, almost for the students internships, dual process, and for examinations, teacher trainings, etc., etc. But the important role of the business is also in marketing and promotion and VET providers, such as not just in business area, but in community too. Next slide, please. The role of the private sector is very important for us. If you saw the challenge that we have in our country in employment and skill sector, we have challenge in skill development, low skills level for working force, and mismatch between workforce skills and labor market needs. But we have challenge in labor market in general, because our mechanism, like public employment service for job seekers and employers, in intermediation between labor supply and demand, it's not so efficient, inclusive, and used by the population. But in another side, we have the VET supply that it's limited in quantity, and also in diversity. And where we are talking about the quality of work, the challenges we seen in our countries. Informal employment level is higher yet. Worker with low qualification in the main sector of economy, such as agriculture, construction, a little bit in tourism. And during the last year, we have increased the wage, and working conditions are better now, but in some sector of economy, we have low wage yet, and this is another challenge in Albania. And in base of this challenge, next slide, please, it's drafting the strategy for employment and skill 2023-2030. Please, next slide. And with vision, quality employment, and lifelong skills development for everyone. This strategy have 2 pillars. One pillar is in skill development, and one to promoting decent employment opportunities for women and men in Albania. And next slide, please. And for each pillar, we have some objectives. And if you saw the main objectives for the first pillar, systematic inclusion of the private sector in government's design and provision of the VET, it's one the more important objective for this pillar. But if we see the objective of another pillar, please, next slide. Promotion of social dialogue in labor market, it's so important. And again, and in the base of this, please, next slide. until in 2017, the government decided to put in the same umbrella employment and vocation education and training. And not it's casual. The reason is to bring near the supply and demand of labor market. And for this need one institution to manage both of the policies for both of fields, employment and vocation and education training in the same umbrella. And as you saw, the business is very, very important in this structure for both of fields, and for employment and for vocation education and training system. Next slide, please. National Employment.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
2 minutes more. Thank
Yeah.
you.
National Employment and Skills Agency have 4 macro level objectives. And as you see, one of them is systemic inclusion of the private sector in the government's design and provision of VAT. And we have also optimization projects that have started 2 years ago. Now are created multifunctional center to be possible to offer every all kind of qualification in the same institution in all area of Albania. We have 3 information management system in Albania, 1 for school, 1 for VTC, and 1 for labor office, and all together are linked and exchange the information. But the mechanism of the quality assurance, of course, are in place. We are now the first VET providers accredited, and we hope until in the end of 2030, all our public VET providers will be accredited. Next slide, please. And of course, in order to the last objectives, but not at least, we think that enhancing skill development and strengthening the alignment between labor market and demand and supply to both employment, it's a right way to go if we want to go to achieve these objectives. And I don't want to mention again which is the best way how can achieve these objectives. Role of private sector in boarding of public VET, cooperation structure between business and VET providers in implementation work-based learning, creation of cooperation cluster between VET providers and business, like the committee sectoral, and of course, to increase the capacity of business to implement work-based learning, collaboration with VET system, and of course, to increase the role and the development of the development unit in this process. Next slide, please.
1 minute. I would need to kindly ask
Yeah,
you
I
to
finished. Just some figures about our reality. In professional practice in business, we have 10 public VTC, and we have more than 1,000 agreements between VTC and business, and more than 50% of all trainees are part of these professional internships. And the schools, we have 31 schools in Albania, and more than 3,300 agreements with the business, and more than 60% of the students are part of the professional internship during one academic year. Next slide, please. And the dual, as you know, the last academic year is the first time in Albania that implemented the dual system. We have started with 6 dual profile, 6 municipalities, and involved in the process were involved 10 schools, more than 100 business, more than 200 students. And the business engagement in this process is very important and focus on identification of capacity building of the mentoring business, definition of students' workplace, payment for the student, documentation and reporting all the performance work for each student to VET providers. But it's very, very important, the collaboration between VET providers and business. in this process, because business need more training how to implement the dual education in Albania, and that provider need more the effect of this process for their students. So the last, please. And which is the future of dual system in Albania for the academic year 2025-2026. We have add 6 schools more and 3 districts more, Berat, Dibra, and Korça. And the figures about the company and students that involved in the process, will involved in this process during this year are double, more than 200 companies and more 400 students. And the ministry responsible for the VET have approved for this academic year 8 new qualification that are the level 3, 4, and 5 Albania qualification framework. And if you, as you see, the dual system in Albania look like good, but the problem and the challenge for the future there are. So we think that if you want a successful dual system in our country, we need to have a successful practical internship in our country, and engagement of the business in both of these approaches are very, very important. And we see in this way, and we are working hard, how can do this process more interactive and flexible. And for this, in National Employment Agency, now we have a new department dedicated for the employment, that which coordinate all the partnership between us and private sector in national level and in local level. We will build a new menu in our website dedicated for employment, and this menu, all the private sector, all employers can see more, take more information about all of that system, but especially for the dual process. That for us, it's priority. Thank you very
Clema,
much.
thank you. So now we should continue with the Q&A, but before we do so, I would like Chiara to guide us through the principles of communication and conversation at this point of time. I see that we're in the meeting mode, so can our speakers ask questions in the chat only, or?
No, they can also take the floor to speak.
Okay.
Just raise their hand and then we'll manage that.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay, so please feel free to raise your hands and ask questions, and I will ask the first question that we already have in the chat. And that question was for ICANN, but I guess that all others can provide the answer to it. So how to bring skills approach more to the system? And I think that the question was, in fact, which mechanisms can be applied to include skills anticipation into the educational system? So if I'm wrong, please, Eider, correct me.
Okay, thank you, Branka. And at one point, by the way, my connection dropped, so I couldn't see the previous chat. But I remember there was a questions during my talk about the job ads in Turkey, and it's actually related to your questions. And yes, the in Turkey, job ads are quite defined too broadly. And what ISO doing about it? And I would like to respond that also besides your questions. And as I mentioned in my talk, and our sectoral committees are really at the center of what we do. And we are in touch with them almost every day through the ISO MAPE project. We have a digital system conducted by us where every meeting, every call is recorded, and it involves teachers, Istanbul Chamber of Industry staffs, industrialists, and even students are recorded in this system, this software. And this software allows us to clearly see what the needs are and what the competencies students already have and what they still need to learn, and in which sector there are shortages of workers and shortages of skills. And but what we do anticipation these skill shortages, we also do regional research by dividing Istanbul into different zones like A zones, B, C, D, it list goes on. And for each zone, we analyze the top 3 sectors where our member companies are active. Then we identify the most pressing skill needs in those companies, and we check whether the local vocational educational schools in that region, student, teachers, and curricula, and we check is it enough for this region, can meet those needs. Based on this, we develop new programs and improvements. And also at the same time, we shape ISO Academy trainings, not only by looking at global trends, but also by consulting with our members and with our committees. Just a fresh example, actually, just last week, the footwear producers committee came to us and asked us to design a program on artificial intelligence application in sales and marketing, specifically for the footwear sector, because they saw their employees need this. We are now organizing that, actually, and this is a fresh example, and this is a fresh example for the how we anticipate the skill, how we creating training programs in line with that.
Thank you, Aykan. I
by
need to
doing
kindly
this,
to wrap. Yes, please.
okay, to wrap, by doing this, we also help companies define more specific roles in their job ads and workforce planning. But of course, as I said that earlier, this is a bigger problem than what we can solve by ourselves. It needs joint efforts across the whole system. Actually, it needs to change the mindset, whole country.
Thank you very much. We have another question in the chat, and this question goes like this. How do you define the skills and which skills are given more importance? And then it elaborates, because when we speak about skills, we can think of more digital skills considering the current situation. However, we are also talking about other skills that are needed in the labor market, like general skills, doctors, nurses, and etc. So please keep your answers short. I will start with who is first, at level, for example, and give floor to others. 1 minute answer so that we have time for one more question or maybe even two, because we are kind of running out of time. Thank you.
When I'm talking about the skills, we have two kinds of skills, professional skills and soft skills. And when I'm talking about the professional skills, we talking about the real need of labor market. But in almost cases, when we delivered the skill need analysis, the national level or sector level, the business, of course, bring to us needs for both of kind of needs, for the professional skills and soft skills. And the curricula in Albania, the curricula included both of them. Almost of curricula, of course, is for the professional skills, but in some models of our curricula, in vet school and VTC courses, we have and soft skills included as part of curricula. Digital skills or then skills for the startup or skills for how to and the last skills that we know is how to learn. The skills how to learn. It's very important skills for the students and for adults and for all. And
Thank
in
you,
Albania,
Aslana.
yeah.
We need to
And
wrap because we don't have much more
yes,
time. And we
yes.
need to.
And about the if we have enough research for this, yes, we have national national skills need analyze one time in 3 or 4 years, but we have national sector need analyze for each sector. We have 2 sector now, sectoral committee, but we are 2 in the future, near future, we are going to have and 2 others. and maybe
Thank you.
a labor office in another side have a lot of information about the labor market, and so we can see all the kind of the needs and from all the kind of the research, and decide the agency responsible for the skills and qualification framework, that is National Agency for VET and Qualification Framework, is responsible to build the new curricula or to review the curricula that are implemented for the future.
Edleva, I would
Yeah.
now really need to wrap up. Thank
Yeah,
you. We are
thank
really,
you.
as I've said, running out of time. Quickly, Emilia, what is your response to this question? 1 minute, please.
Yes, sure. So I actually talked about this during the presentation. So the skills are included in the study programs and curricula, which are based on the standard of qualification. And so all the new standards of qualification that are we have, they all have some professional skills, but also some soft skills or digital skills, or they are innovated, all the new standards. So that's how these kind of skills are included. And regarding the needs for the other professional skills that are lacking, so at every step of the process, from the initiative for the new qualification, which would lead to the new curricula, we have employers that participate in the process, and in every step of this way of this cycle, they can contribute with the proposals and with their expressing the needs for a specific skill. So maybe that would be short.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Biljana some other question, but I can leave it for later. And this also relates to all your presentations, how actually employers contribute to monitoring the quality and relevance of skills training. So Biljana, if you can reflect briefly on this question. If not, we can really leave it for the discussion once we hear all our other presenters.
Branka,
Yes.
да, ние ја спроведуваме ова анкета веќе години наназад и се покажа како еден добар механизам за утврдување на потребите на работодавачите и истите да ги понатаму овие анализи да ги преточиме во конкретни програми и мерки за подигање на вештините на невработените лица. Токму и во креирањето на овие програми земаат учество самите работодавачи. Значи, во дизајнирањето на програмите исто земаат големо учество, така да нивната вклученост во целокупната ова активност е на едно завидно ниво, на едно високо ниво. Постои, кога зборуваме за вештините воопшто, значи ние во анкетата фокусот ни е да детектираме потребата од едно занимање, меѓутоа и вештините кои што се потребни за тоа занимање. Затоа и споменав во последниот слайд дека наш предизвик и една активност е имплементацијата на ЕСКО класификацијата. Ние при спроведување на анкетата ја користиме ИСКО 08 класификацијата на многу детално ниво, на 6-цифрено ниво, и веќе имаме добро воспоставена основа за да можеме да работиме. Се разбира со поддршка на ETF, барем неодамна бевме на конференција за ЕСКО и се надеваме дека ќе ја добиеме таа поддршка, а токму регионалната соработка со службите за вработување од регионот ќе ни овозможат да побрзо ја имплементираме во работењето.
So thank you, Biljana, thank you, Edleva, Emilia, and Aykan for very interesting presentations. I think that you provided a wealth of knowledge to our guests today. I'm handing over now to my colleague, Slavica, who will be moderating the second part of our webinar. So Slavica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Branka. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this regional event. The second part, we focus on regional cooperation, regional initiatives in light of skills demand and matching, and also on policy dialogue. The first presenter today is a colleague from European Training Foundation, Pirita Worien, and she's going to provide us a presentation on participatory foresight and private sector collaboration in the agri-food sector in the Western Balkans. Pirita, the floor is yours.
Okay. I somehow activated a drawing mode on the on the Zoom screen. I didn't know that was an option. Now I do. Hello to everybody, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. So we're going to be talking about the regional cooperation when it comes to companies and skills development. So I'll be sharing today with you my experience. We've been working since 2022 in the Western Balkans, specifically in the agri-food sector, because all of the countries in the region opted for agri-food based on economic analysis as a priority sector. And we worked across the country, so covering the whole region, because cooperation is really the modus for working today on skills development and private sector development in the European Union. That is because all of the European funding instruments are based on collaboration, not just in the Western Balkans, but also with EU member states, Eastern Partnership, and so on. So it's all about cooperation. We're very much in an interconnected world, and this is very much reflected in how we work together. We've heard a lot today about how from the skills supply side or from the public policymaker side, we are approaching private sector. In our project, we did the opposite. We started with the private sector. So we had a call to companies. It was a little bit like looking for a needle in a haystack when we started, but we really wanted to find innovative companies in the agri-food sector. And we didn't want to define the subsectors. We wanted to see what came out of there. It's a risky approach, but it paid off. So here's what you see to whom we kind of reached out in order to get to the kind of 130 active stakeholders that we have in the Western Balkans, and who have maintained their participation over 4 years. So this is, I think, a huge success factor. And for me, my personal performance assessment comes from that, how engaged and how the participants do. So I'm not going to go through the details you see down on the screen. We reached out to quite a large number of stakeholders in order to get to that, and a diverse range of stakeholders. But we started from the companies, and we told to the other participants, these are the companies that we have. Do you want to be part of this discussion on developing regional skills in agri-tech and organic food production? Because those were the two subsectors where the companies were in. And everybody else kind of joined the process that was started by the companies. You can move to the next slide, please. There were a whole bunch of different analyses we did, but the end goal was always that our stakeholders would be able to take part in joint initiatives within the country, across borders, both with Western Balkans, EU member states, but also with Eastern Partnership countries and other countries. So we did different analyses. It was country level, cross-country level. We had thematic reports. We looked at, for instance, technology transfer separately. And so had many different analyses that then stakeholders can use to then further apply for Erasmus funding and Horizon funding. And in fact, we're well past double digits in terms of the number of proposals that have been submitted to Erasmus and Horizon, not just by our stakeholders, but also other people, other organizations have picked up on the project and have pulled our stakeholders into other proposals that have been developed by third parties. So it's been quite interesting, the dynamic that has been generated from this. It's attracted so much attention that our stakeholders, who often don't have the capacity to drive the Erasmus and Horizon proposals themselves because they're small companies and small vet institutions, but they're being pulled into it because their participation in this regional project is seen something very interesting, and the dynamic of the analysis is seen as something interesting. All those reports are available on our website. I can share the link in the chat later. You can move to the next slide. So what we did is we really focused on technology. Someone mentioned it before, but we're our focus was on competitiveness. So how do we get companies to be more competitive? There's tremendous potential in the Western Balkans in the agri-food sector, and the companies are very, very small. And but they are offering technological solutions that are fit for purpose for very small companies in the farmers. And this is really an issue that a lot of the technology that is being developed for farmers is for larger farmers. And so the collaboration with education and training companies and both farmers and the technology providers is so important, because that brings them together. That allows the farmers to get technology that's adapted to their needs. It allows the technology producers to offer technology that supports the local farmers. Therefore, they have a domestic market, so they're able to grow. Often nowadays they export, because there's very little domestic market. So it's very important to see kind of where the technology is going and how companies can be supported, and farmers can be supported in technology absorption, because that's the key to competitiveness. A whole other conversation, I could make a whole other presentation on, but let's move on to the next slide. So through the research, what we found, this is an example. There's many different tables in the reports. I'll put the link into the chat later on, but here we were able to distinguish kind of what are the main technologies that are driving the agri-tech sector across the Western Balkan economies, and how much of there is the readiness for adoption of these technologies. So I've underscored here, or should I say, I put it in box, the robotics and autonomous vehicles. It's important to say that even though it looks like there's not so much readiness, that's where the specialization comes in. There are extremely competent companies in those areas offering really unique solutions and selling already globally in the Western Balkans. So, but those are the niches where skills development is so important if these countries are to be more competitive. If those companies are not supported through skills development, they will not be able to grow. Those could be the big Apples and the big companies of the future. That's the level of these companies. So this is where skills development needs to be going, and this was a question in the chat before. This is the type of analysis that we've done in Western Balkans in the agri-food sector. You can skip to the next slide, please. I'm trying not to go over my time. Then we look at the skills. So if those are the technologies that are driving change and where the opportunities lie, then what are the skills associated with those technologies? How are we going to get to that level? And so then we looked at the ESCO. We used the ESCO to look at the different skills that are associated with those technologies, and this is what we get. So again, we looked at 3 different subsectors. Actually, we later merged the digital and biotech. And so this is what we got. And then you can move to the next slide. And then we reference that to occupation. So then this is the list that we got. I'm not going to go through the details because what matters is the process. You can skip to the next slide. The conclusion that we got is that there's definitely concerns about the effectiveness of VET in supplying the relevant practical experience. I think it says I can't see because the slides look a bit odd for me. Hold on. Oops. I'm just trying to change. There we go. So I can see my slides. Okay, so there's concerns about the effectiveness. So the skills that are being provided by VET are not what are being looked for by the companies. Also, students, not necessarily what they're looking for. There's very little adult learning offered. And there's also a bit of a stigma that adult learning is for very, very elderly people, whereas actually it's for people who have just entered into the labor market and from that point onward. So adult learning programs, there's a tremendous need. Actually, what companies are doing at great cost to them, because these are very small companies, they're retraining university graduates with vocational skills in order to be able to have the kind of skills in their companies that they need. So it's a huge cost on first training highly educated people and then retraining them with vocational skills by the private sector. The skills required across the for instance, agri-food sectors is very, very difficult because they're cross-cutting. So many of the skills are very relatable to other sectors, so it's easy to steal the skilled labor that you get. So also the many graduates, they're aware of this, and so they can easily move between these sectors and they exploit them. So if you're now an agri-tech company and you need someone with agricultural skills and technical skills to develop those technological solutions, you'll be hard-pressed to find a person and attract them to your company because there's so much competition for that kind of labor. It doesn't help that there is low attractiveness of the agri-food sector because there's still a perception of the jobs being very outdated and manual and hard labor, whereas a lot of the jobs nowadays are digital and technological and actually really, really interesting with the remote controlled devices and so on. So yes, there's competition for individuals who really have the skills that are in demand specifically in the agri-tech sector. Company investment in technology is linked to their ability to generate investment, return on their investment, and this is a big issue. Across Europe, small companies are far slower in adopting technology than large companies. We're well under 10% of small companies kind of seeing benefits of adopting technology, and this is where the skills and technology balance comes in. If companies don't have the skills to generate profit from the technology, they tend not to be interested in investing in it, or if they do invest in it, they don't get the return on investment. So we don't get the impact on productivity and therefore the competitiveness of the sector. There's another issue, which is that the VET offer is linked to demand. So if there's a demand for something, then VET tends to offer those kind of trainings, but that's disconnected from policy goals. Often policy goals are a bit ahead, so they can see the different technologies that are emerging and how education and training need to adjust its offer. But there's a gap there in translating those policy goals into career guidance. And so we get a little bit of a mismatch on what is being offered and what is being needed for the country to meet its economic goals. There's also very limited capacity of vet schools. Vet schools in the region tend to be very small, which means that they have difficulty even in taking part in European projects. So when we're talking about Erasmus or something, it's very difficult for small vet schools to be part of these projects, which require English language skills and time dedicated to be part of these proposals before submission, after submission, and then to implement. But I think that the main, I'm 11 minutes. I will say nothing more after this word. Then scarcity of skills. So there's really an issue with which I think is actually an opportunity. So the fact that there's a limited amount of skills for companies to hire and bring in, then this is actually an opportunity because it makes companies very open to collaboration. So it's not that we don't have skills, they close off. No, they're completely open to collaboration. And this is a huge opportunity to bring the different stakeholders together and work together. And that's why we're seeing, like I said, in well into the double digits of proposals being submitted to Erasmus and Horizon. I think that was my last slide, or there might be still recommendations, but I think I won't have time because I'm well over my time already.
Thank you, Pirita. Thank you very much. Just a small reminder that you can place your questions and comments in the chat. And after the presentations are done, we will make sure to answer most of this within the time limit. Also, I would like to remind the presenters to keep the 10 minutes time in order to have enough time for everyone. The next presenter comes from the Regional Cooperation Council. Daniela Gacevic would tell us a little bit more about the cross-border collaboration to harmonize skills needs. Daniela, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure to be here today and to greet you on behalf of the Regional Cooperation Council. Before I start, I'd like just to check once again, do you hear me and see me?
Yeah, so far so good. Thank you.
Perfect, so I can continue. Good morning once again, and as I said, it's my great pleasure to be here today with you. I kindly ask you to move to the next slide. So basically, today I will present briefly regional tools for skills anticipation, some challenges that we noticed economies are facing in the area of vocational educational trainings, some solutions that we as RCC see that could work in the future. And also I would like to brief you about some upcoming regional initiatives. Next slide, please. So starting basically about with cross-border cooperation, the first topic of today's session, I would like to focus on three extremely valuable regional tools developed by RCC and our Employment and Social Affairs Platform project. As you can see on this slide, we are speaking about Western Balkans DESI dashboard, ASAP observatory, and the social scoreboard. A few weeks ago, RCC launched the Western Balkans DESI dashboard, the first interactive online platform that tracks the region's progress in digital transformation. This online dashboard comes after the 3 editions of the Western Balkans Digital Economy and Society Index report, and it provides the insight into 4 key indicators, as you can also see on the slide, such as digital skills, digital infrastructure, digitalization of business, and digitalization of public services. In terms of skills, the dashboard offers insights about the level of digital skills in the region, skills related to the ICT industry, and how our citizens tend to use the internet. The tool is interactive and very intuitive, and it offers a wealth of useful data. So I encourage all of you to visit the website and then basically to see the range of data offered under this report. The second instrument that we are also very proud of is ASAP Observatory. This is also an online platform which was developed in 2021 to enhance the comparative knowledge and evidence on current employment and labor market trends and short-term fluctuations in our region. Essentially, the observatory is working on harmonizing labor market data to inform proper policy decisions. The observatory features 2 sets of data that are related to labor. Apologies. The observatory features 2 sets of data that are related to employment and social affairs in the Western Balkans, and it is quite complex. Therefore, I would like to focus on the features which are relevant for today's discussion. Basically, we are speaking about annual and quarterly data featuring information about the labor markets of the region, which are relevant in our view from the policy perspective. The feature that I would like to present is the quiz for youth section. Basically, if you're interested in learning more about this, you will find, for example, that 36.5% of young men from the region are in an active job pursuit, slightly lower compared to the similarly values in the EU, where 40.5% of young men are in active job pursuit. In addition to Employment Observatory, the third project that we have developed is the social scoreboard. And it is developed during the second phase of the project. It is modeled after similar projects that exist in the EU, and it tracks data aligned with European pillars of social rights indicators organized across 3 main clusters, including equal opportunities and access to labor market, fair working condition, and social protection and inclusion. Although it is very similar to something that already exists in the EU, it offers a much broader pictures for our region and supports basically evidence-based and targeted policy making. Basically includes data on young people not in employment, education or training, also the long-term unemployment, participation in lifelong learning, early school leavers, and level of basic digital skills. These indicators highlight the region's available human resources that could benefit from upskilling and reskilling programs. And the next version of the social scoreboard will be released at the end of October. Next slide, please. So when we speak about challenges in vocational education and training, basically what we have noticed is that the stakeholders are facing a complex set of challenges that we tried to group into kind of 5 groups in general presented in this slide. Main practical challenges include institutional capacity gaps and fragmented qualification frameworks. Also, what we have noticed is that VAT institutions vary in resources, expertise, and government maturity. Some of them also lack the administrative capacity to engage in cross-regional initiatives. And in addition, Western Balkans economies usually have their own national qualification frameworks that are sometimes misaligned with the European qualification framework, which in that case obstructs mutual recognition of skills and mobility of workers across the region. Although we do share many similarities in the region, there are some differences noticeable, such as language and cultural differences, which could also affect curriculum developed to be applied cross-regionally, teacher training, and mobility of professionals and students. Finally, divergent legal systems and administrative procedures complicate regional cooperation. Therefore, as for recommended solutions, we might want to consider developing shared digital tools for skills anticipation and data exchange. And the examples that I mentioned earlier could be modules to emulate. Some kind of unified platform would enable our region and the Western Balkans economies to pool labor market intelligence, identify emerging skill needs, and respond proactively. And in our view, it would reduce duplication, improve transparency, and contribute to evidence-based policy making across the region. Perhaps, again, in our view, we could consider joining forces to create a single online tool by mimicking the similar EU platforms that exist, such as the online platform that could provide insight into skill needs and labor markets across the Western Balkans, helping policymakers and stakeholders to make informed decisions. We are also noticing the growing involvement in EU-led programs such as Pact for Skills or a UN regional program on local democracy in the Western Balkans, suggesting that such a tool may emerge in the future. In our line of work, and something that we learned working with the region is that capacity building is always needed. And then in that sense, we believe that we should use EU programs to assist in strengthening our institutions, promote peer learning, and monitor progress more heavily than we are doing now. And in that sense, targeted support could help under-resourced institutions to participate meaningfully in regional activities. Also, what I would briefly like to mention that from the RCC perspective, we are trying to support mobility of workers, and then over the past years, we have advanced mobility agreements in higher education and professional qualifications, which aim to enable doctors, nurses, dentists, architects, and engineers to move and practice more easily across the region. Also, please, next slide. Building on this foundation, where mobility is often associated with higher education, in the current action plan for establishing the common regional market. We envisaged two measures which are related to vet education. Basically, in line with these measures, we are basically helping, supporting regional recognition database and simplify the inclusion of occupational standards into national frameworks, all of which are critical for overcoming fragmentation and making skills more visible and portable. Also, we are trying under the measure, the second measure that you can see on this slide. We are trying to embed mobility in VET with clear commitments, ensuring that learners across the region, including those with fewer opportunities, can benefit. And together, these measures show that mobility is no longer confined to universities, but it is becoming the part of VET fabric, making systems more responsive, inclusive and aligned with the Europe. Next slide, please. So in line basically what I already presented, I also wanted to present some of the upcoming regional initiatives that are happening in the next few weeks. So I would encourage all of you to participate and join us, so that in more details, basically, you can learn what are we focused on. We will address digital skills more broadly at the Western Balkans Digital Summit, which is taking place in Skopje, actually next week, on the 1st and 2nd of October. In addition, we will organize with the UNDP Istanbul Regional Office Human Capital Days for the Western Balkans. And this is taking place in Tirana on 28 and 29 October. This event will look into innovation and smart specialization related skills, mismatches, and present the latest development regarding the region's alignment with the European Pillar of Social Rights. Therefore, once again, I'm encouraging you to join these two events, as both of them will provide further opportunities to connect the dots between policy, skills anticipation, and regional cooperation. Finally, what I would like to announce is this ICT skills study that you also see in the website, that we are preparing to identify trends that are likely to influence ICT skills developments in the region over the next 5 years, and provide actionable insights for workforce, education, and policy planning. The focus will be on skills in demand related to artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data science, and cloud technologies. The study should be publicly available by the end of 2025. Thank you so much. I've already seen a question about participation in the events. Basically, what I can encourage you is to follow RCC website and also our socials, where we are timely announcing all the events. Speaking about Balkan Digital Summit, you can find on our websites links to join also online, while for the Human Capital Days, stay tuned, and similar possibilities will be offered to everybody interested to join.
Thank you, Daniela. We
Thank you
are
so
forced
much.
to stick to the time again. I'm so sorry, we are limited with the timing. Our last presenter comes from the Chamber of Investment Forum Western Balkan 6. And it is Besart Krasnici, who is going to tell us a little bit more about the private sector policy dialogue on skills, demand, and matching. So, Besart, the floor is yours, and please take care to stick into the 10 minutes so we have some time for the questions and answers.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Ms. Dimovska. I'm Besart Krastici from TVET department, head of TVET department in Kosovo Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, I'm the national coordinator from Kosovo in WB6 TIF Chamber Investment, TIF Investment Forum. And here I'm addressing to you on behalf of President Rafuna, the president of WB6 TIF. Ladies and gentlemen, dear partners, colleagues, and friends, yes, it's a great honor and a personal privilege to address you today on behalf of the president of Western Balkan 6 Chamber Investment Forum. This forum unites the 6 Chamber of Commerce from across the region: Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, and North Macedonia and Serbia. Together, we represent more than 350,000 businesses, from the smallest family enterprises to the largest regional employers. These are the companies that generate growth, create jobs, pay taxes, and carry the hopes of millions of families across the Western Balkan 6. Our topic today, skills demand and matching, is not just a technical issue. It is one of the defining challenges for the future of our economies and societies. Because without the right skills, no company can innovate, and no economy can compete, and no young person can fully realize their potential. This, for companies, it means lost competitiveness, delayed investments, and missed opportunities. For young people, it means frustration, insecurity, and in many cases, migration in searching for better opportunities abroad. And for our societies, it means wasted potential and slower development. But I'm not here to speak only about the problems, but I'm here to say that this challenge can be solved. And the solution lies in partnership with the private sector, dialogue, and governments, education system and institutions, and international partners. At WB6 TIF, we believe the private sector must not just be asked for the feedback after policies that are designed. The private sector must be involved from the very beginning, because businesses know what are the necessary skills for today, and what also know what we need for tomorrow. Allow me here to highlight 3 directions what, as private sector representative, we see as crucial. First of all, we see a closer collaboration between businesses and education. We need to build a mechanism where companies sit regularly with the schools, universities, and vocational training centers to develop different curricula and occupational standards that the job market needs. Second, we need promotion of dual education or work-based learning to promote more this kind of systems that many of the countries in WB6 have started, let's say, to implement the dual education. For example, we can share with you the results of the indicators from the dual system in Kosovo. Most of the companies, 95% of them, are very satisfied with the skills that the youth can have after 3 years. And 95% of them are fully employed after they finish the best schools in this system. And as the previous speakers mentioned, a regional approach on mobility of workers, students, also teachers, to have this kind of know-how transferred in education system from each country, and why not with the other countries of Western Europe too. Thank you for the visit.
Thank you very much. Now we have some time for your questions.
Yes.
Following the chat, I don't see any question here, but you are encouraged to ask directly. So the floor is yours with the questions or comments.
Slavica, I have two questions,
Yes, please,
if you
Ranka.
don't mind,
Of course.
before others. So Besart, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm asking the same question I already asked. And this is, how do employers contribute to monitoring the quality and relevance of skills training in the Western Balkan 6? So if you have any good examples, I would appreciate that. And then the second question is later for Pirita.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. It's a good question because we have experience with the TVET education, let's say, and as we have the cooperation with the chambers on behalf of Western Balkan 6 TIF, we see that the companies are monitoring the quality, because most of the companies that are part of the dual system and the work-based learning system, they have the in-company trainer that are trained and certified, let's say, from the chambers. And this person or this kind of persons, because for big companies, you need to have many of them, 2 or 3 or 5, but not only one. They are responsible, let's say, to manage the system, to see the development of the person or the students that are in the company, and to evaluate the process, and at the end of the school, to be part of the evaluation, let's say, and to evaluate the student. Part of the exam, part of the commission are 2 persons from the private sector for different companies from the same sector, and 1 comes from the school. On this increase the quality, on this shows, let's say, that the Western Balkan countries or the education institution from the Western Balkan countries are preparing the workforce what the private sector needs, based on the request from the private sector.
Thank you very much. Another question, Branka, you had? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a practical question for Pirita, if she can answer this one. So how to supply skills for these 30 professions that will most likely emerge due to technological change in the Western Balkans? I like this slide. So we see what is changing, but now practically speaking, what are the steps and how to move forward? Thank you.
Well, let me wave my magic wand. I think that it's a complex issue. I think there's several things that need to happen from what we find from the discussions with the companies. I think first, business support services really need to turn into industry-facing hubs, really addressing more specific skills needs. These generic trainings on marketing, on generic trainings on business accounting or something, they no longer work. We need to get more specific and support really the skills that companies need. And they often don't know what they need. So this is another issue. It's quite tricky. For instance, when we were talking to agri-tech companies, they could tell what the skills needs of agri-tech users are, but they had a lot of difficulties identifying what their own skills needs are. So, you know, you have to sometimes look at the other side of the coin to understand the need. So definitely the business support services need to become much more practical and targeted. Adult learning is something that really needs to improve. I skipped my recommendations part. So micro-credentials is very much something that's needed. It's very targeted, can be very technical and quick to adopt. Right now, most of the companies spend surprisingly a lot of money on sending their workers to other EU countries to be trained. So we find very much it contradicts the generic statement of small companies don't invest in skills. Absolutely not true. So the very innovative companies invest huge amounts of money into their employees. Work-based learning is seen something as that's really can be very effective. The problem there is that we find when we're talking to companies is that the work-based learning rarely extends to the very small companies, which is the majority of the companies. So somehow it seems to be more tailored to even the public companies and larger companies that are then foreign owned, because the Western Balkan companies tend to be much smaller. So there's a discrepancy there in how to address that. And then for me, there's a very important gap, which is the post-secondary vet. So we're talking level 5 and so on. So this is when we're talking about the more digital advanced skills, when we're talking about drone technologies, remote controlled vehicles, and all the hugely important technologies that are emerging in the agri-tech sector. We need the combination of skills with the agri-food and the technology, and those need to be brought together at higher level vet. In many European countries, post-secondary vet is very common. In Western Balkans, it is not. So I think this is a big gap. I hope I answered your question there.
Thank you. We have a question in chat from Rame Likai, and it is regarding the criteria for external evaluators. But I'm not sure to whom the question is targeted. Rame, could you please clarify the question?
I mean, it's directly to Besart, but anyone can answer to this question, because we need people who are really trained, certified in order to do such exercise.
Thank you, Besart. Please.
Yeah, once again, the question, please.
So, is there any quality criteria for the external evaluators? Because for in-company mentors, instructors.
Yes. For example, to be certified and trained as in-company trainer, it has some criteria. You must come from the same from the same company or same sector or profession to be in-company trainer, and let's say to have minimum 3 years of experience in this area. For example, and let's say to be responsible to be in-company trainer, to be certified from anybody, let's say, or chamber in Western Balkan 6. But at the same time, to be evaluator in the dual system, it has some criteria. For example, to have experience in this kind of sectors that you are applying, and to have pedagogical didactic skills, let's say, and to be, let's say, at the same time in company trainer, because otherwise you cannot be a evaluator in the company, and you must have up to 10 years experience in this sector to be evaluator. In German market, can I say in Austria and Germany and other countries that is present this kind of system of dual education, you have how to say the name or the title Meister. If you have 10 years experience in TVET as in company trainer, then you are the master, and the master can be the evaluator to be present in different how to say commission, in different exams for 1 or 2 occupations that you can manage, or you are responsible for it.
Thank you, Besart. I believe, Rame, this is the answer that you have expected to hear. Any other question from other colleagues? If not, I would thank you for your time and the patience for the presentation so far, and would give the floor back to Christiana for the conclusions and thank you from her side.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Slavica. Thank you very much, Branka, for the facilitation in this webinar today. We'll come to an end, and we'll wish to thank all the speakers for the brilliant presentations and all the participants for the discussion and the questions. A number of interesting topics have been addressed today. Let me summarize what are the key takeaways. Of course, the private sector is a key actor in the skills ecosystem. They sit in a privileged position to act as a key actor for foresight system for the anticipation of skills. And of course, what is crucial to make skills ecosystems sound and effective is the strong cooperation and partnerships with the education and training sector to ensure equipping learners with relevant skills for the future. So thank you very much again for your commitment today. So again, to all of you, to our facilitators, to the colleagues at the Fondazione Brodolini for the support of the organization, wanted to remind you that all the materials from today's presentations, as well as summary of this webinar, will be made available in the ETF open space. You will receive a link in the coming days so that you will be the opportunity to go again through the presentation from the speakers. Thanks a lot again for being with us today. Wish you a very good rest of the day, and we'll keep in contact also through the LinkedIn channel. Thanks to all. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye bye.